Welcome once again to Retirement Designed Differently with financial advisor Billy Voyles. He's the founder of Fundamental Wealth Designs. I'm Spike Spengel. Billy, how you doing this week?
We're fantastic, Spike. How are you?
I'm really, really good. What topic is on your mind? What's on your brain space for today's retirement planning?
Today's retirement planning discussion is around ramping up for retirement. So we've met with a lot of prospective clients lately that are in this process of trying to really shore up their retirement in those last few years. What steps should you take to make sure those final few years are used to prepare yourself for retirement?
Great topic. Folks, don't go anywhere. Ramping up your retirement. There's so many folks out there who feel like they're behind on their retirement planning. And if that's you, this program today is for you. You might feel like you're late to the retirement party, but we'll make sure we get your party favors to you. Some of the things that you can do, some of the different tax treatments, some of the different tools that you can use, all of that on today's program. But I think it also stems from that there are millions of Americans right now, different research that you and I have looked at. 89% of Americans today are feeling that they're either behind or ill-prepared and never sure if they're going to be able to retire. From your seat, when folks come to your live events or coming to the office, is that some of the feeling you're getting?
Yeah, definitely. And it stems from the fact that we don't have control over our retirement in a lot of aspects. There are so many things that impact our retirement that are outside our control. Taxes being one of the first and foremost, right? Congress changes tax laws every couple of years, and we don't control where taxes are going to be in the future. Inflation and the printing of money that we've gone through the last few years. We don't control how inflation impacts our spending. So when there's things outside our control that we can't have an impact on, it concerns us.
Yeah, and 69% of retirees are unsure of what to do with that nest egg afterwards and how to actually turn that into income.
Yep.
Now, I know that there's a lot of different programs we're on here on the weekends. You probably got a lot of different things on your mind, folks. You're doing your honey-do list. But if you don't mind, I'd like to actually talk about some of those solutions. What are the kinds of things? What about people who have come into the office recently? Do you help them turn their assets into income?
Yeah, we absolutely do. And that's one thing is, like, we realize that some people come in and they feel like they're ill-prepared for retirement, or they don't have any confidence in their retirement when they come into our office. But after we walk them through the process and give them a plan, then they actually leave relaxed and confident, because when we put the pieces back together after we take it apart, it is all in the right order, and it is enough for them. But without having a plan or a structure, knowing how much you can spend or can you cover your expenses with what you have, that's where people might feel ill-prepared when in reality they're not. They've done what they needed to do to get prepared. They just don't have a plan to go forward.
Right. There's been some discussion, different publications, you may have seen them out there as well. It's calling it the retirement crisis. And this is, in fact, why you're trying to help people ramp up their retirement. Maybe to save a little bit more, maybe to get a little bit more interested, to actually take action in it. Do you feel that there's a retirement crisis, and maybe what would be some of the reasons or bullets why?
Yeah, I do. And the main reason is longevity. We are living longer than ever. And, you know, a lot of the advances in healthcare are terrific. But when you talk about living into your 90s, almost to the client, they're like, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to live into my 90s. I don't want to do that. Oh, no, I'll be checked out by then. You know, there's everybody that says it, and it's hard for people to imagine the fact that they'll live into their 90s. But my grandmother retired in 1987. From Wayne County in Michigan, actually. And she was a controller, and she had Social Security, and she had a pension as well, and she had retirement savings. And this was before the 90s, which was a stock market boom, right? So she should have been okay. But her problem, Spike, was she lived too long. She outlived her money. So one of the biggest concerns, and it's actually one of the biggest fears in America, more than death, is running out of money in retirement. Because we now have to prepare for these 20 to 25-year retirements. And to think about you having to work for 40 years to then have to not work for 25 years. How much do you have to save to build this nest egg that you have in order to make that money last 20 to 25 years? It really is a crisis.
It is. And it used to be something where we'd look forward to those retirement years. Those last few years, you're already starting to talk to your friends in the workplace and go, you know what, you're going to have to find the replacement for me. But now, so much anxiety about going into our retirement years. So it does go to one of those questions, that $1 million, or how much is enough, or how do we make sure we don't run out? How are you helping answer that question for folks? Do you have a certain number or threshold that you're looking for? $1 million, or at least $500,000? Or are you trying to increase it even from that target number, 1.5, maybe even 2 million?
Yeah, and the answer is it all depends, right? It sounds like I'm always answering as an attorney. It all depends, and it does, because it really depends on what's going out. So one of the things we've talked about is in our office we have a couple different plants. One of the plants is a cactus, succulent style. Another plant is an evergreen. And some of our clients are like that cactus, right? They can live off $3,000, $4,000 a month. They don't need that much water in order to survive. Another client, they'll be $12,000, $15,000 a month, and that won't be enough. So it does start with how much do you spend. And one of the things that we talk about in ramping up for retirement is knowing and understanding really how much do you spend on a monthly basis. And most people want to transition into retirement without changing their lifestyle. Right?
Right.
Would you want to transition to retirement without changing your lifestyle?
Yeah, I don't want to be certainly not eating less. I certainly don't want to be not have to have a vehicle. I certainly want to be able to possibly stay in my home as long as possible. So no, I would imagine I want to keep the same expenditure ability, but doesn't it also go up over time?
Yeah, and we'll talk about inflation after the break.
Okay.
But you have to look at your last 12 to 18 months of expenses and really do an analysis on how much is coming in and coming out. And it all goes back to the checking account, right? It all is going to flow through your checking account, whether it's credit cards, whether it's mortgage, whether it's car insurance, all these streaming services. How many streaming services do you currently pay for? When you add all of those up, but you need to look at it over a longer term period. If we're just looking at 3 months, we might have missed that bill for the car that sort of just popped up, right? There's all these variable expenses that are very hard to account for. And why are they hard to account for? Because the prices are going up every single month. And when I go back to buy it again next month, it's more expensive. And that's when inflation is really starting to rear its ugly head. And if we're preparing for a 20 to 25 year retirement and inflation's at 3 to 4%, our money needs to double. Our income needs to double in retirement in order to cover those costs. And that adds to the crisis in retirement.
All right, Billy. So that's why for our viewers today, we want to offer your own retirement design. You can call the phone number down on the bottom of the screen, or you can use the QR code. Open up your phone to the camera function and point it right there at that QR code. It'll take you over to Billy's landing page, where you can also get a complimentary copy of his book, To Roth or Not to Roth. But more importantly, let's get you started on that retirement design. We're going to give you some solutions on how you right now can ramp up your retirement. When we get back, right after this message. Don't go anywhere.
I went into real estate in college. Part of the reason why I went into real estate is I got a phone call from my father informing me that he had cancer at the time. And my father was an HR director for corporate America. Got up early at 6, out the door at 6, and home at 6:30, and traveled. And I termed it that he worked for the man, and I wasn't going to work for the man. I was going to go get rich in real estate. But little did I know, the markets in Michigan were crashing and everything else. And so back to the fundamentals I went, which was go to school, get a job, work hard, get promoted, start saving money, and go from there. And the first job I got out of college was actually in financial services. And for the past 12 years, I had spent 1.5 million miles on an airplane to work with advisors. Financial advisors were my clients, and I was teaching them and consulting with them on how to grow their businesses. And I really just had to get off the road. I couldn't be what I wanted to be as a father to my family and as a husband to my wife by being on the road as much as I was. So the crazy next step in after having a 4th kid was quitting my job and launching this business, which is Fundamental Wealth Design. So it was a bit of an abrupt right turn, but it was all for the right reasons.
Welcome back to Retirement Design Differently with Billy Voyles, financial advisor and the founder of Fundamental Wealth Designs. I'm Spike Spengel, and today we're talking about ramping up your retirement. How can we make sure you've got some solutions? There's a lot of you out there who are feeling behind, and we totally empathize with that. So today, solutions. What are some things that people can do if they're feeling behind, Billy?
And I think it starts with the budget. It starts with just income and expenses, what's coming in and what's going out. So when you think about income, you know, are you maximizing the amount of income you can earn at this point in time, right? If you're in the healthcare environment, if you're at 0.7 and you can go up to 0.8 or 0.9, I know that's tough to do, but is there a way we can make more income? But recently someone came in our office and they actually had a spending problem. So they were making in the six figures, and their problem was not that they weren't making enough money. Their problem was actually on the spending side. So as we walk through their spending, you know, we found $500 to $1,000 really in more or less frivolous expenses that they really didn't need. So you have to sort of challenge yourself here, because this is tough, because those frivolous expenses provide, you know, immediate gratification for us. But if you're serious about ramping up for retirement and getting ready to retire, then you need to take a hard look at that income expenses picture. But the next we need to talk about is also in their portfolio.
Right. Okay. So increasing those savings rates by knowing exactly what you're spending, because there's the two different words. You've got diet, and I don't think a lot of folks like going on a diet, or exercise. See, having a spending plan is, I think, more of the exercise. It's more action, realizing what you can spend. But then if we are able to save more, don't we need to be saving effectively? You're not just talking about squirreling this away in the shoebox underneath the bed, right?
Yeah.
We've got to make sure this money's working for us.
Exactly. And depending on how much time you have between now and when your sort of target date for retirement is, you know, you need to have your assets properly allocated in order to take advantage of whatever is out there to offer when it comes to the investment spectrum. So we find sometimes people aren't taking enough risk as they approach retirement, which is a very sort of oxymoronic thing to say, because everybody talks about de-risking before retirement. But if you don't have assets allocated properly, you might not be comfortable taking enough risk to achieve the growth. I mean, since 2020, the market's been up over 100%. It's doubled since the sort of depths of COVID back then. And a lot of people we see have been sitting on the sidelines the entire time because they haven't been comfortable with risk. But how are you comfortable with risk? Having a plan and having purpose behind how the assets are supposed to perform.
You know, Billy, that is a phrase that I have heard from the financial industry for a long time. They said the same thing in 2008. That people got out of the markets because they were afraid of what happened. They say, thank goodness I got out of the markets. I only lost 25%. I only lost 40%. And then they stayed that way for a decade.
Yeah.
They didn't get back in. The market's doubled from there, and you're saying it doubled just in the last 4 years. Now, we're not promising doubling.
No.
But one of the bigger risks I hear is not just taking too much risk, but not taking enough risk.
Yeah.
You've got to have that growth, that inflation. So how do you actually define risk when you sit down with folks?
Yeah, so one of the things we go through is a risk analysis. And we're not the only advisors that do this. Frankly, every advisor needs to measure your risk one way, shape, or form. But then we compare it back to your portfolio, and then we measure. Because I just mentioned sometimes you're not taking enough. I see others where they're 100% into the stock market, and they are taking too much when their time horizon's 12 months to retirement. So every situation is unique. And, you know, as you're sitting out there on the couch and maybe you got your cup of coffee and you're watching us, maybe you've been watching us for a couple years now, and you're trying to figure out, you know, like, does this all make sense to me? Is he speaking my language, if you will? Know that we bring up all these different stories talking about different folks we run into, and every situation is unique, and that's part of what I enjoy about the job. Like, I'm facing a new puzzle every time a new client walks into the office, because their pieces are in different places, they're cut up different ways, they're taxed different. All of these things present a challenge to us, and that's what we enjoy, is really facing that challenge and putting those pieces back together so you can understand what your retirement picture is really going to look like going forward.
I appreciate you saying that, because we do talk about different stories, and people might be, man, they're all over the place. Some days they're talking about income, sometimes they're talking about the markets. Maybe, if you don't mind, even though we've been on the air for a couple of years, that you explain exactly what you as a financial advisor do. As you said, there are other folks out there who will also do a risk analysis. But what does that mean to how much you could lose in your portfolio? What does that mean to you, to your spouse, as far as loss and what you're trying to get in gains for inflation? What do you as a financial advisor actually do for folks who are maybe tuning in for the first time?
Yeah, if you're tuning in for the first time wondering, because some people have never met with a financial advisor before, and they come into our office and I sort of ask the questions at the beginning of our first appointment to say, hey, what brings you in today? What are your expectations? And when I ask, what are your expectations, they just look at me with a blank stare. They're like, I really have no idea what you do or what it is that, or how you go about doing things. And my in-laws actually are one of our clients that after I walked through the system, they're like, I didn't know financial advisors did that. And so what we do for folks is very comprehensive and very detailed and very structured. We walk through your budget, your income and expenses to figure out how much are you spending, how much is coming in, whether it's from Social Securities or various pensions. Because you need an income plan that's going to give you confidence to spend your money. If you're in retirement right now and you don't have confidence to book that next trip, to go on that vacation, or to buy that extraordinary gift for your grandkids, or to pay for your grandkids' college, because you just don't have comfort around your finances in order to do so, that might be a great reason to give us a call. Income is the most important thing in retirement, so we start there. But what impacts your income is going to be, next is going to be taxes. Because most of you have spent most of your lives saving tax-deferred assets through your 401ks or 403bs or 457 plans. So figuring out a tax-efficient distribution plan is also going to be part of it. So we spend about 80% of our time with clients is spent focused on income and taxes. Of course we manage investments. We're financial advisors, right? Of course we're going to address portfolio allocations. But what we find is that in retirement, income and taxes are really it in retirement. That's what we focus on, is income and taxes.
So one of the many ways to, as we say, trying to ramp up your retirement is having a more comprehensive approach. It's not just about saving. And in fact, you just kind of were hinting to it, because one of our things on ramping up your retirement is try to maximize your savings. Yeah. Of course, that's at first probably going to be in your employer plan. In that employer plan, usually those tax-deferred options. Here in our state, are you starting to see more of the Roth 401k options? Have you seen any come across your desk yet?
Yeah, that's a newer sort of initiative right now, is people looking at Roth IRAs. Whether it's Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, they want to explore that because it is a tax. You tax now, but then you're taxed never again. And that's a great place to put money that's going to grow over a 10, 15, 20-year period. And we use that money towards the end. And later in different shows, we talk about sort of the structure of distributions and how you're going to distribute the assets. But one thing I want to mention is these 401k plans allow you catch-up contributions. So one strategy that one of our clients employed was they were about 67, they were full retirement age, but they didn't quite feel like they had quite enough to be very confident in their retirement. So one of the strategies you can look at is they actually turned on their Social Security while still working. But they were full retirement age, so no negative impact to their Social Security. And then they were able to save $30,000 per year in their 401k from 67 to 70. Therefore, at 70, they had an extra $100,000 in savings that made them feel significantly more confident in their approach to retirement at that point in time. So, this is just one small strategy that we can use for you out there to increase your confidence in retirement. And that's what we want to do by creating this retirement design differently for you. We want to give you confidence in retirement. And how you gain that is by having a plan, and having a plan that addresses your income. How much income are you going to need to feel comfortable? Right? Then we attack your taxes. We want to help you pay the minimum amount of taxes legally possible over the next 10, 15, 20 years. And that area is of huge concern because taxes are changing in the next couple of years. So there is urgency around tax planning. And then we want to maximize your investments. And how we maximize your investments is providing purpose to the asset. And we look at time frame and risk tolerance as to when you're actually going to tap into those investments. So if this sounds like something that you could take advantage of, give us a call. I know you got your cell phone very near, very handy to you, pick up that cell phone and give us a call at 888-379-1846. We got a team standing by with our calendars open, and you can book a call with us, just a short 15-minute call, or you can book a foundation meeting, which we'll explain later, is when coming into one of our office and walk through our first appointment, which is our foundation meeting. So pick up the phone, give us a call. We look forward to seeing you in one of our offices around the cities.
Billy has a very designed message that's going to come right after this, so don't go anywhere. Use that phone number right now or the QR code. As Billy said, we all know you've got your phones there. Open it up to the camera function and point it right here at that QR code. It'll take you over to the landing page. It'll schedule your own appointment right there. We want to help you ramp up your retirement. You might need a financial advisor if that segment when we get back right after this.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Retirement Designed Differently with financial advisor Billy Voyles. All right, let's cut to the chase. How do we ramp up our retirement, Billy?
We do so by investing with purpose, Spike. I see it all the time where you have, a target date fund inside your 401k, and your entire 401k is allocated to one 60-40 strategy, and that's not going to cut it. You have to invest with purpose. Each asset has to have a purpose to it.
Right, but Billy, it's not the viewer's fault if what they have in there is target date funds and 10 or 15 or maybe 20 other funds, and you've got your stock funds and your bond funds. So what about taking that money out, or are we just at the whimsy of whatever's in our 401k plan, and then we get to 65 and we got to cross our fingers and go, did I do okay?
Yeah.
What can we do if we're still in our working years?
Yeah, if you're still working, there's a magic age, 59 and a half. And really, after 59 and a half, it's an odd age, but we just had an appointment Friday with a lady that came in, and she was just approaching 60. She was going to turn 60 in a couple months. And she did not know this at the time, but she had over $1 million in her 401k. And she was just sort of letting it ride, letting it grow or fall based upon, whatever the strategy was. But we were able to take what's called an in-service distribution, an in-service withdrawal. And in her case, we were able to roll the entire balance from a 401k into an IRA without paying tax. Now, that is also one thing that's news to some people that we meet with. Others are very familiar with it. Others, they don't realize you can roll an existing 401k into an IRA while you're still working. We call this little window of time from 59 and a half until now 73 your tax control window. So before 59 and a half, odd number, I know, but before 59 and a half, your 401ks or IRAs, they have restrictions and penalties if you access that money earlier, right? And you're going to pay tax on it. After 59 and a half, the door opens. Now, it doesn't open for everybody, and we need to check within your plan, but that's a great thing to check with us on to see, can you take control of your taxes? Take control of your retirement, take control of your investments? You probably can if you're 59 and a half, 60, 61, 62, still working. We can help you.
Right, and there are proper ways to do what you're saying, the in-service distribution. It's not rolling it out of your 401k and spending it. It's not taking it. It's but it's moving it out to a proper IRA where you said there is no tax. The only other way that you can manage your assets is if you've left that job. That's why this is called in-service withdrawal. You're still in service to that company. But if you've left a company, you can roll over your 401ks. But I've got a big question. This wonderful person who just came in, she didn't realize she had already saved $1 million. So what, had she been working at the same company for a long time?
No, she realized she had the $1 million, but she did not know she could take control of it. And that is the biggest difference right now, is once you pass 59 and a half and you turn 60, 61, 62, the vast majority of companies provide this in-service distribution. So then you can actually take control. A lot of folks that we meet with, they want to be able to have more control, more influence over their investments. They're not happy with the 401k performance. They don't have a lot of options in there. It's hard to do tax planning and strategies within the 401k itself. And they want a plan. And without having control, it's hard to create a plan. And one thing that we talk about, this time horizon in retirement, I wrote down this quote: "A goal without a plan is just a wish." So if you sort of have a goal in the future, like I want to retire at 65, but it's not backed up with a proper plan to help you get there, we're just wishing that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And our clients don't really want to wish. They want to know they're going to be okay.
Right.
And that's why they want this plan.
And so for our folks who like to come in for our third segment here, you might need a financial advisor if we don't have a realistic expectation on time horizon. I think you and I have very similar family experiences where we had folks who became older and we were worried about running out of the assets. Is this one way to ramp up your retirement, getting realistic about the time horizon?
Yeah, I think so, because if you want to ramp up your retirement, we can help you. Because we can help structure your current savings rates, we can help structure your investments, we can structure your future income plan so you know you're marching towards that date. And you have a definitive date in mind, whether that's next year, whether that's 2028 or 2030, whatever that might be for you. Maybe that's age 62, age 65, age 70. We can help craft your retirement plan so then that way at that time, you can pick up right where you left off and left work. You can continue with the same amount of income coming in that you've worked for your whole entire life. And that way you can enjoy a seamless transition to retirement, which is what people want. And then, again, enjoy everything that life has to offer. We have a saying, for those that want it all. It's retirement designed differently for those that want it all. If you want everything there is out of life, if you want to squeeze all the juice out of that lemon that is life, then give us a call at 888-379-1846. We can design a retirement right for you.
Billy Voyles, financial advisor, thank you so much. Folks, if you're still feeling like you don't know how to ramp up your retirement after our program today, that's all right. That's why the phone number's down there on the bottom of the screen. Let's get your retirement designed differently. You can do that with financial advisor here, Billy Voyles. Simply call the phone number or use that QR code down on the bottom of the screen there. Thank you so much for watching. Me and Billy Voyles will both be back again next week.